I'm Lanisha, and I am introducing Dr. Tobin of Tobin Holistic Medicine. She is a wonderful doctor of holistics who has been practicing for several decades. She specializes in ailments that, um, sorry, she specializes in ailments when someone has been going to from doctor to doctor to doctor. She's the last doctor that they get to see because she helps them. Dr. Tobin also became a doctor because she wanted to find a way to heal herself and her family. And so she'll hopefully share a little bit more about that. I trust Dr. Tobin. She's one of the first doctors that I went to see once I realized about the Western medical system. So I really trust her and I recommend her and have for at least 5 years since I met her. So enjoy.
Thank you. Thank you very, very much. So a little bit more about my background. I'm originally an Iowa girl, from Iowa. I met my husband there. We got married. We've been married 45 years, and which means I got married when I was like 10.
Right.
What I found is for years I had a manufacturing business, but my passion has always been health, and I was raised with a mom who was very much into natural health and things like that. And so when I was younger, say in the 1980s, the United States as a whole, obesity was very, very rare. Autism was like 1 in 5,000. Childhood cancer, there weren't even childhood cancer centers. Infertility was almost unheard of. So Americans as a whole, the world, but specifically the United States, our health has deteriorated over the past 30, 40 years. And it's been going pretty dramatically down. So my passion really is to help reverse that. It's not that we all just started, intentionally ruining our health. It's all the environmental things and the food and all of the energies around us that we're working to overcome. So I really find that most people that have been from doctor to doctor to doctor, like Lanisha said, it's because the whole focus of our current medical system is you come in with a specific ailment and we will give you a specific treatment for that ailment. Whether it's a pharmaceutical or surgery, you come in with another ailment, we will give you another pharmaceutical or intervention for that. So it's very specific, and you'll see different doctors, very linear for each problem, where the holistic approach is to look at the whole person. So we're always looking for the underlying reason for the problem. And so the analogy I give people is, if you find the root of problem A, you've usually found the root of problem B, C, and D. So we just want to find the root of the problem. So that's what my focus is. So I kind of want to make sure that I touch on your specific interests. Usually, most people are interested in stress management, hormone balance, weight, and so if those I will definitely touch on. Is there anything else that somebody specifically wants to make sure that we touch on?
So
Anxiety.
What was that?
Anxiety.
Anxiety. Okay, yeah, stress and anxiety. Okay,
Kind
good.
of coupled.
I'm going to just make a note so I don't forget.
and is when you say hormonal balance, is that the menopausal?
It could be menopausal, it could be fertility, it could be, I see a lot of women with menstrual difficulties. Hormone also is blood sugar regulation. Thyroid is also hormone, and so many people have thyroid problems. And the underlying reason for most thyroid problems are really an autoimmune issue. So is anybody interested in thyroid at all? Okay.
I raised this down. Okay, I'm making sure your hand went up really high.
I have Hashimoto's, so.
Oh, okay. So you know about autoimmune thyroid.
Right, and I was diagnosed late in life with it, and I think it may have had a reason why I couldn't have my own children.
Yes, it very likely does.
But I didn't know. When I went through all the testing, they're like, "Oh, we don't know what's wrong. You should be able to." And
Okay, so I'll definitely want to talk to you, because that's a lifelong thing.
Right,
And I'm guessing you take Synthroid or levothyroxine or something like that.
The
Levothyroxine,
yeah.
okay. Which, again, from a conventional medicine standpoint, they're giving you a medication to keep that hormone level where we need it, but they're not really addressing the root of the
Correct.
problem, which is the autoimmune component. So I'm glad you mentioned that.
Yeah.
Perfect. Anything else that somebody really wants covered?
Allergies?
Allergies? Okay. Okay. So I'm also going to pass around a little clipboard. This has on it a questionnaire. I love doing these, but I also like to get feedback from people, things they appreciated and things they'd like to learn more about. So I'm asking if you'll just fill that out as you're, thinking about things. And then Claudia, actually, I am a contributor to her magazine, and this was the page that she had. So I also printed up some of those so that you could all see how wonderful her magazine is, and so I'll pass this around as well. So first thing I want to talk about a little bit is, so I'm going to talk about autoimmune first, because that seems to encompass a lot. So one of the things with thyroid is when they check your thyroid hormones first, or any hormones, they generally check it with blood. So when we're checking for hormone balance, for example, if you think about it, your hormones, your estrogen levels are supposed to come up, your progesterone levels are supposed to come up, and it's supposed to, you have a monthly cycle of that. If you just check your hormones with blood at one point, you just get a 1 point marker. It doesn't really tell you what your hormones are doing. So a lot of times with just general hormones, I like to do it with saliva testing, where you take 11 different vials and you fill each vial throughout the course of a month. So when we get your report, it says this is what your estrogen levels did throughout the month. This is what your progesterone levels did. Here's where you had your luteal surge. It tells us what your hormones are doing over the course of a month. So when I'm dealing with somebody with fertility, I do that testing. And I've had doctors go like, shocked, where did you get this from? Like, it should cost thousands of dollars, and it doesn't cost thousands of dollars. But in their mind, they're only taught to do blood work. And they're not going to do blood work, 11 times throughout the course of a month. So there's a lot of other ways to get information other than just what conventional medicine would normally do. So so that's from a hormone balance, we want to kind of find out what's going on with that. So if somebody is at menopause age, think about what order I want to do this in. So let me kind of go back foundationally, because we were talking about autoimmune. When with Hashimoto's, what's happening is your body has assigned some of your own tissues as bad. So it's attacking them. So your body's attacking itself. So just giving you the hormone that your thyroid should be producing doesn't really resolve the problem. And so I'm going to can you see this at all from where you're at?
Yeah.
Okay, so in your brain, you've got your neurotransmitters, your serotonin and your dopamine. Those are your feel-good neurotransmitters.
I don't think I have any of those.
Exactly. That's exactly it. Because people with Hashimoto's and thyroid, depression also tends to come right along with that. Because those hormones are actually what's supposed to trigger your hypothalamus, which is a gland that kind of like the master gland in your brain. And then your hypothalamus tells your pituitary what to do. And then your pituitary is actually what releases that TSH, or thyroid stimulating hormone. That's what normally, if you go into the doctor and you think, I might have a thyroid problem, they'll just check TSH. And a lot of times they'll say, oh, your TSH is fine. The catch with that, and you probably know it, is the way they come up with their lab results for a lot of things, but thyroid hormones being one of them, is they create like a bell curve. Everybody that goes into the lab has their blood markers checked, and they create this little bell curve, and they throw out the upper and lower portion of it, and they go, okay, this is our lab range. The problem is a lot of people having their thyroid stimulating hormone checked are on thyroid medication, so it skews those results. So here's what their lab range is, and this is usually like, say, a 0.4, and this might be a 5 point something. But that doesn't mean this is healthy. It just means it's lab range, it's normal. The minimum I like to see is a 1.8. So that means oftentimes I see people come in, I said, I want to see your lab work. And they say, no, my doctor said everything's fine. I said, I want to see your lab work, bring it in here. Because oftentimes they're way down here, which means they're not functioning at all, even though the doctor says you're fine. So I get that all the time where my doctor said my lab work was fine. And I've also had it where people, they bring in their lab work and I'm like, there's no way your doctor should have said any of this was fine. I mean, your liver markers are off, things are way off, but unless they're off far enough to where the person needs medication, from a conventional medicine standpoint, they're looking for pathology. If you don't need medication, there's nothing to be done. From a holistic standpoint, we're looking to see what we can do to optimize how your body's functioning. So here's what I'm often seeing. So then after your pituitary releases your thyroid stimulating hormone, that goes to your thyroid and tells your thyroid what to do. Your thyroid produces T3 and T4. You're probably very familiar with that. It produces 93% T4 and only 7% T3. Guess which one your body can use?
Probably.
Three.
Yeah, the T3. That's what. So all this T4 has to get converted into T3. Guess where that conversion takes place? It actually takes place, 60% of it takes place in your liver.
Oh, wow.
And liver is the underlying reason for the vast majority of health issues that I'm seeing. Because if your liver's not functioning very well, you're not going to be making this conversion. And then also, just so you know, 20% gets put into what's called reverse T3, which is just kind of so you don't get too much. And then 20% can also get converted in your gut. So what's going on digestively is also important. But this liver is critical. And from an Eastern medicine standpoint, liver is also critical. So a lot of times when thyroid's not working well or something's not happening here, it's really a liver problem. Now, your liver is your body's biggest detox organ. Which does that explain why, with all the things we've got going on in our environment, everybody's liver would be stressed? Yeah, it's your major detox organ. So anything, when people come in my office, virtually everybody needs some type of liver detox because your liver is involved with your thyroid. It's also involved in all your other hormone clearance. So when somebody's hormones aren't being balanced, they need help detoxing. So that's one of the keys is working on the liver. So when I'm working with somebody's liver, and I brought in some samples of some of the supplements that I've actually helped to create, just so you can taste some of them. But with liver, when a lot of times people will go, oh, liver, I think I need like dandelion root. But did you need to see that?
I'm just looking at my result versus your
Oh,
things
okay,
right there.
okay. Tell me what it is.
The TSH is 3.47, but that's on medicine.
3 on medicine, which is high for being on medicine. So
That's the thing. I'm adjusted almost every 3 months on dosage because it can't keep it.
okay, so then that means in your case, I'm going to come back around to that as far as what's going on, because you've got an autoimmune component going on with that. So when the body's got something going on immune system wise, what happens is you have cells, this job is to go ahead and tag things as bad, like it puts a flag on them or an antibody. So some of your liver tissue has been tagged as bad. Tagged. It can stay tagged forever and not have a problem until these guys get woken up. And their job is to go ahead and look for things that don't belong. Well, what wakes them up? Other things getting into your system that don't belong. A key one of that is anything, stress can cause the problem, digestive problems can cause the problem, and why food allergies and digestive problems cause the problem. Think about in your intestines, you've got these little hair-like projections, and what's supposed to happen is your food, you're digesting food, it comes in, it catches in those little hair-like projections, and the nutrients are supposed to go back, in through those back into your bloodstream, and then the waste products are supposed to get eliminated. Well, picture if you got these are too spaced out, there's too many gaps there. Sometimes it's called leaky gut, if you've ever heard that phrase. So these are too spaced out. So then not just the nutrients get back into your bloodstream, but the food particles get back into your bloodstream. You see the problem because those food particles don't belong there. So these cells whose job it is to look for things that don't belong get waken up and they're like, oh, there's things in here that don't belong. So now they start attacking that food and they get woken up every time you eat that food. So it just takes these being spaced out too far and now you have a problem with that particular food. Now, every time you eat that food, it's going to cause inflammation in your system, and it's going to wake up these guys. So now that these guys are woken up a lot, and you've got this tagging, so now you're going to have that type of damage going on because it's attacking your body. It's the same thing as any autoimmune issue, whether it be like rheumatoid arthritis actually attacks the joints. Lupus, yes, is an autoimmune. Psoriasis is an autoimmune issue. Psoriasis. Do you have more than one autoimmune issue?
I do.
Yeah. Which that's why, because once things start getting tagged, now these guys are all confused and they start tagging more and more things because everything gets wound up. So it's very common that when you have one autoimmune issue, you'll get another. And unless you can figure out the root of the problem, what's waking these guys up, you never really resolve the problem. We can give you medications that just kind of squelch your immune system, but that doesn't solve the problem. It just makes these guys not be able to function. Well, you want them to function because you want them to fight bacteria and stuff. So there's another thing you can do, and there are cells called regulatory T cells. Think of them kind of like the chorister director telling these guys and these guys what to do. If we can up-regulate those regulatory T cells, then they can keep these guys from tagging things at random and also these guys from running around and creating all kinds of havoc and inflammation. So we want to do things to up-regulate them. So that's good quality omegas, good quality vitamin D. When you do your blood work, everybody's vitamin D should be at least 80. I would bet anybody here, unless they're specifically working on it, doesn't have a vitamin D of 80.
Check.
Okay, let's see. So, and oftentimes, if your vitamin D is over, say, 50, your doctor's like, oh, you're doing good. But if it was over 80, I wouldn't have a problem. If it was 90, that'd be fine too. But at least, somewhere in that range. The higher, the better.
What would it be under on a blood panel?
Sometimes, unless you request it, they don't always check it.
I used to have low vitamin D, but I go out every day. They told me to go outside every day.
Uh-huh.
And that's what I do for like 30 minutes.
Okay, so look to see the last time your vitamin D. Just keep searching. I'm anxious to hear now.
So I have a quick question.
Yeah.
Going back to like when you say it's like the liver, it boils down to like the liver, but would your liver levels when they do your blood work, would that show up?
Your liver enzymes, by the time something's showing up as your liver enzymes are off, you have a big problem.
Oh.
So
it
no,
wouldn't necessarily show.
No, it's not. That's why when I look at levels, I'm not looking, by the time it's way off, there's a problem. When I'm looking at somebody's blood work, that's why I actually like to see their results.
The whole thing.
I'm looking from a functional standpoint. But yes, you're not going to wait till your liver enzymes are way off.
Okay.
And if your liver enzymes are off, say you're doing some type of a parasite cleanse or something that's hard on your liver, they can't come up for a while, just while you're doing that cleanse. And then as soon as you back off it, your liver will be fine. But But your liver being your major detox organ, one of the key problems that you'll identify if there's a liver problem is anybody who's had gallbladder problems. Oh, wow, you got
Should I just stand up here? I
I
had mine removed.
You're like
Okay.
patient zero.
I
Good.
know.
We had
What
to
is
bring a
the,
model.
would it say vitamin D, or is there like a?
It would say vitamin D or D. It would definitely make it clear it's D. So you may have to look back a while to see which one it was. But the gallbladder being removed, just so that people, if you ever hear somebody who they say, oh, I'm having gallbladder problems, deal with the gallbladder problem and clean your liver and gallbladder right away. Don't wait for it to get bad and bad and bad and then end up in emergency and excruciating pain where your only option is we just have to take out your gallbladder, which infuriates me. I've had a lot of patients that come in and they say they want to take out my gallbladder, and 95% of them, we've detoxed their gallbladder so that they didn't have to have it removed.
That was the worst pain, and it was right here in my chest.
Yeah,
So-
it's excruciating pain. And so what's happening when you have a gallbladder problem is two things. One, from an emotional standpoint, is in Eastern medicine, each one of the organ channels has specific emotions associated with it, which is why we're having so much liver and gallbladder problems. All of our stress emotions affect liver and gallbladder. So anger, resentment, frustration, all of those emotions hit the gallbladder and the liver. Those are the two organs that work together. So having that emotion will trigger the organ to not function very well. And then also when the organ isn't functioning, it will also trigger the emotion. Like, for example, somebody who has hepatitis, which is a liver issue, oftentimes irritability is the key. You can see somebody with hepatitis from a mile off because they've got bad irritability. So also a lot of our other irritability is liver being stressed, and it just shows up as irritability. So those two kind of go hand in hand. But if I'm talking about specific liver and gallbladder, what your gallbladder does is it's just a little receptacle. Your liver produces the bile. And when your liver is functioning really well, your bile's nice and thin and clean, and it flows really nice. When your liver is not working very well, that bile kind of becomes kind of sludgy, and then it gets into the gallbladder and it sits in there. Well, there's a little tube that goes from your gallbladder down to your intestines. And every time you digest fat, the intestines say, hey, send down some bile, and the gallbladder goes, squeezes, sends a little bit of bile down, helps it digest the fats, and everything works well. Unless, what?
It just sounds, you're describing it so well.
Yeah.
I can
So-
see it happening.
The problem is that little gallbladder, if you've got thick, sludgy bile in there, it sits there and it forms into little balls and stones. And now when it squeezes to send the bile down to here, it doesn't really go very well. And so you start getting a little bit of irritated and inflammation going on in your gallbladder because the intestines don't know that the liver's not producing the bile. They just know they're not getting it. So they keep telling the liver, produce more, produce more, produce more. Well, then the liver keeps producing it, but it's not leaving the gallbladder well enough. And if there's just a little opening, if you get a stone that blocks that opening, that's when you get the excruciating pain, because the liver keeps producing it and none can get out. So it just so sometimes if you put some heat on it and you do some other things, we can kind of get it calmed down enough. And if you quit eating fats so that the intestines quit telling the liver to produce more bile, you can kind of get that pressure taken off. And if you get that pressure taken off, there's certain supplements you can use to kind of help dissolve those stones, thin the bile. And so then we really work with the person to nourish that liver so that it kind of produces more clean bile. And then we gradually help clean out the gallbladder, but it takes time. So if you wait until it's an emergency, well, we can't do anything once it's blocked and it's just, you're in excruciating pain. So that's why sometimes they're just like, we're going to take it out. But
It
a
was
lot of,
like that for months and months and.
Yeah, but if we, at that stage, if we had known what was
Right.
going on, we could have started backing off it and potentially resolved it without taking out your gallbladder. Some people do really well without a gallbladder. Other people do not do well at all. And they constantly always have diarrhea and problems, and then we really have to kind of work to make sure that we're always providing some extra support for digestion, because you can't get your bile when you want it. You can only get it as fast as the liver can produce it, because you don't have a reservoir for it. So that's,
Yeah, I don't think I've had knock on wood yet.
no.
No problems with
If you're doing that, that's
digestion.
good. So that explains
on my
kind of what
column.
was happening. So it makes sense that your liver's always been a little bit sluggish, which is why you kind of got a little bit going on with the thyroid. You had some things going on with the liver and gallbladder. So you are a prime candidate to now getting ahead of the game and being proactive and helping to clean your liver. So when you're looking at doing a liver cleanse, liver has both phase 1 and phase 2. Phase 1 liver detox is where the liver pulls the harmful metabolites out. If you only do phase 1 cleansing, that's when people go, oh, I did this detox and I had headaches and I felt lousy, and because phase 2 is where the liver takes those harmful metabolites, converts them to water soluble so they can get eliminated. So any liver detox, you want both phase 1 and phase 2 in what you're doing. So just saying I'm going to take dandelion root or whatever is not really going to provide a good liver detox. The other thing is when you're doing a liver detox, your liver also needs extra bioavailable protein. So both of the liver detoxes that I use, this is a complete protein cleanse. So this has in a powder all of the protein, as well as the things for phase 1 and phase 2 liver detox.
So you don't need 3 different bottles of
So you don't
something.
need
It's all
3
in
different
one.
bottles. It's all in one. This has a chocolate flavor to it, but because it's got everything in the powder, the flavor it's chocolatey, and it's not. I mean, some people love it. Other people are like, no, I don't really like that at all. So there is another option, which is to take the liver detox capsules that have the stuff in there that doesn't taste very good, and the collagen peptides, which is a very bioavailable form of protein. It's the same protein that's in here, it's just separate. This is more of a vanilla flavor. It actually tastes really, really good, and then you take these separate. So, but you have to take separate things.
So if I already take a collagen peptide, I take the Vitals every day. Collagen peptide.
That's what you do take.
I do take.
That's okay. So that's great. So then,
I take
if
that
you're
every
doing
day.
something like that, then you would just want to add the capsules for the liver detox.
And you mentioned headaches. I mean, both of us are prone to headaches way too much.
Mm-hmm.
Doing that, would that give you a headache? Did you say?
Actually, in Eastern medicine, the channel that comes around in your skull that kind of zigzags around your entire skull is your gallbladder channel. That also comes down through the neck here where you have all that tightness. So a lot of times the reason somebody keeps getting headaches is we blame it on hormones because the liver's not clearing the hormones. You probably have had liver problems for a long, long, long time. So that would explain why and that's also why stress causes that, because that puts strain on your liver channel, and that also causes that. So a lot of times that's actually the root of the problem. So when you start doing something to unwind something, you give the body tools it needs to work with. Your body doesn't care that you're in pain. Just so you know, it's
Mine sure doesn't.
It's not its main concern.
Okay.
If you give it tools and you give it plenty of tools, it's like, okay, we got everything we need now. It's going to start doing it really, really quickly. So some people, that's why I make sure there's phase 1 and phase 2, and I work with people and help them do other things to detox at the same time. Because if you just give the tools, it's not unlikely you're going to have some type of, we call it a healing reaction, where the body's like, okay, I got these tools and I'm going to start doing this. And the fact you got a headache so bad, we don't really care. We're just going to start doing these things. So when I'm working with somebody and doing a liver detox, I might have them doing low light laser therapy, acupuncture, ionic foot detoxes, lymphatic cleanses, other types of detox to help the body work through it instead of just giving it a nutrient, which is great. But oftentimes what we're finding is that I use the analogy of a plumbing system. So if when we're in our 20s, we've got nice big clean pipes, everything can drain really good. So over time, we tend to get some crud in the lines. And so then what happens is you get a little clog in the line. Well, even when you move that clog along, it might even go down further stream and create more of a clog because you haven't really cleaned out the lines. So in addition to just kind of moving the clog along, I really want to do what we can to gradually clean out the lines. And I try and balance the speed at which we're cleaning out the lines for different people. Because, I may have an elderly person that's really fragile. I don't want to do too much with them. When I've got somebody who's 30, we can do it a lot faster, or it just depends on what their health issue is. So I really work on an individual basis, and I don't just say, okay, everybody who has this problem gets this, everybody who has this problem gets this, because different people need different things. So that has to do with, your hormones and your liver and the things like that. One of the other things that we're finding a lot with hormones is when people say, oh, I've been told I need to be on some type of, I've got either they're younger, I've got menstrual problems, they're going to give me birth control pills, which infuriates me. That is like the most maddening solution to a problem, because it doesn't resolve the problem at all. And even they know it's not resolving the problem. It's just we're giving you this hormone to make this symptom go away by making your body misfunction to make the symptom go away. It's maddening. Same thing when somebody's at perimenopause age or menopause. If they give people estrogen, it is maddening to me, because here's what's happening. When we're in our 20s, we make a lot of estrogen because estrogen is that proliferative hormone, the one that causes cells to reproduce a lot. So your estrogen comes up very, very, very high when you're pregnant, and that's great. You want cells to reproduce a lot. Think of when you're in your 50s. Do you want cells to reproduce a lot? No, because what does that cause?
Weight gain?
It causes weight gain, but it also causes cancer. Cancer. So that extra estrogen that they give women when they're in menopause can be cancer causing, and they know that. What's maddening is they're not addressing the root of the problem. The root of the problem is we still make enough estrogen when we're older. I mean, the body's miraculous. It knows we don't need to be making as much as we needed when we were trying to, make children, but we still need some for bone and all that other stuff. So the body makes plenty of estrogen. The problem is it can't get into the receptor sites because our environment has these things called xenoestrogens or endocrine disruptors, if you've ever heard that phrase. Those are things in the environment, plasticizers, pesticides, all those kinds of things that actually they act as estrogens and they block the estrogen receptor sites. So your estrogen can't get into the receptor site. So you don't feel like you've got any estrogen because it can't get into the receptor site. But where does it stay? It stays circulating around in the bloodstream because it can't get into the receptor site. So it circulating in the bloodstream can be cancer causing, and yet you're not getting into the receptor sites. So the best thing to do is clean off those receptor sites. So I created a support called Estro Protect, which is specifically designed to clean off estrogen receptor sites. And I use that for all ages, I use it for men too, because prostate cancer, the main reason for prostate cancer is the same reason. And the men do something called aromatization, where they start converting their testosterone into estrogens. And so that estrogen causes cancer, and that's what ends up causing prostate cancer. And so, so I use this with men. I use it with women of all ages. This is like my biggest, for me personally. I feel so much better when I take that. I have one gal who, her business partner he was upset because I was back ordered on it. He says, "Do not let my partner run out of this, period, because she's unbearable when she's out of this." So that's probably my of all my patients, that's my favorite product. So balancing the hormones is important. Keeping your liver detoxing is important. And then the other thing that that is important is we all have way more stress than what we were designed for. And it's not that we have necessarily more stress. We don't have the kind of stress that our bodies were designed for. The way we're designed is a bear is chasing us. Get into stress, fight, or flight mode, run away from the bear, and bear's gone, everything can go back. That's the way we're designed. The problem is our adrenals don't ever get the signal that, bear's gone, we can calm down, because we're under stress, we're running from the bear all the time. So that's why our adrenals, and almost everybody I see has adrenal fatigue of one stage or another. And the main reason for anxiety is adrenal fatigue. So there's certain ways to let the body know that it's not running from the bear. But there are also, let me give you some suggestions. Have you ever heard of adaptogens?
Heard of them?
Yeah.
Yes.
So there are certain herbs that don't increase your adrenals or decrease your adrenals. They just help your body adapt. So I've created different formulas. One's called Tranquil Aid, which is for somebody who has extreme anxiety, their adrenals, they're in that stress, fight, or flight, and they just can't get out of it. That's the formula for them. People who have a lot of acute stress, I have stress relief. And people who have kind of a chronic, I've been stressed for so long, my adrenals are just straight fatigued, there's Vital Boost. And each formula, I will monitor which formula someone needs at a given time. Because somebody may need one formula to get out of a crisis where they have severe insomnia or anxiety or whatever. And then as everything starts healing, they don't need that extreme formula and they'll move into another stage. So the adrenals have different stages and you want to hit the nourishment on specific stages. But things like hypnotherapy are great for getting out of that stress, fight, or flight. Breathing techniques are great. And one of the things from a breathing standpoint, if you think about it, when you get stressed, do you exhale or you go, and you inhale, right? And then you hold it. Okay, so if you can tell the body that, there's no problem. And the best way to do that is as you exhale, you say you inhale to the count of 4. And then you exhale to the count of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and hold it and pause. And then you inhale to 4, and then you exhale 4, 5, 6, pause. So you're telling the body, we're exhaling and we're calm. There's no bear chasing us. So you give the body the signal that there's no bear chasing us, we're okay. And the more you can do that when you get into a stress, fight, or flight situation, the more you can kind of help work yourself out of it. I love hiking. I don't know if you've hiked in Zion, you're familiar with Angel's Landing. That's the one where at the end you go up the chains. And I was there with somebody and they started panicking on me. And if you let go, you are going to fall. And that's not a good thing because there's nothing to protect you. And so I just had somebody start breathing like that. I'm like, please, God. and it really does work. So anytime you start getting super stressed, just tell yourself to breathe and pause, and it really will help calm some of the anxiety.
What's the difference between like stress, anxiety, and an actual panic attack?
The panic attack is where you're in that stressed stressed fight or flight mode, and you don't have an outlet for it, and your body just kind of gets into a what's the word I'm looking for?
Vortex?
Pardon?
A vortex?
Yeah, that's exactly right. Yeah.
That's pretty
So
good.
yeah, it just kind of self perpetuates and it gets worse and worse. The more you think about it, the worse it gets. I had a business partner who would check his blood pressure in CVS when he would go in there,
Oh.
and he would check it, and it'd be high, and he'd check it again, and it'd be even higher. He actually passed out because it got so high, and they had to call an ambulance for
Oh
him.
my God.
He worked himself into it, though. He went in there, and it was just a little high, and by the time he left, he was passed out. So that's that, and that's all what's going on up here. What's going on in your brain is so critical. What's going on in your body? And I'm gonna, now that you mentioned it, I'm gonna just give you a little example of how that works. Does somebody want to volunteer? Will you volunteer?
Oh, me? She's the problem child.
Well, you're just having to stand, so I'm just gonna have you
You just
stand
have
right
to be
there.
closer.
Oh,
That's all you have to do is stand there. Oh, okay. So you're familiar with, how many here are familiar with dowsing? Okay, so
what? With what?
dowsing. So when you are looking for water, for example, they'll take rods, and as they walk over where there's water, the frequency is different. So the rods will do different things when it hits that frequency. So if I walk toward you with these, when I hit your energy, the rods will behave. So what I'm going to just have you stand there.
I want to see this.
Ah,
Nobody behaves around her.
okay. You see how they
What does that mean?
So that means that's where your energy field is. How far out it came, because the rods cross. So you've got a fairly decent energy field.
Is that a good thing?
Well, now I'm going to have you do something. Think of something that really upsets you, that makes you very unhappy.
Dad.
You got, don't tell anybody. Just got it in your mind. Okay.
Living with you.
Okay. See what that did to your energy field? This totally constricted your energy field. So now I'm going to have you think of something that makes you very happy, because I don't want to leave you in that space.
Your sister.
So think of something that makes you super happy, that really lights you up. You got something in mind? Okay. See the difference?
Oh my God.
So
What in the world?
So when you were talking about what causes anxiety, this.
Yeah.
You have absolute control over it, but you don't know you have control over it. Because once you start getting into that cycle of thinking and you start hyperventilating and your body just doesn't understand what the problem is, because you are creating it in here.
Yeah.
So and it's not like we do have control over it, but we don't know how to control it.
Right.
And that's where like what Lanisha does kind of helps.
Yeah.
And there's where a lot of other biofeedback things that we can do to kind of help that. So learning how to control what's going on up here, because a lot of times what's going on in your subconscious, obviously it's your subconscious. You don't know what it is. But when we're children, we don't have a filter. So say something happens, somebody says something to a small child, and the child doesn't have a filter to go, that's not true, so they take it in. Now as an adult, the person consciously is like, well, that's crazy. Why would anybody ever believe that? That's nutty. However, the subconscious still believes it. So you can't consciously overcome your subconscious. You can use biofeedback and some other things, but and hypnotherapy, but just regular talk therapy, for example, really isn't going to access your subconscious mind.
Wow.
So does that make sense?
Yeah.
Mhm.
So, and it doesn't mean that anybody intentionally said anything terrible. It's just, we're creating our own little self-identity as a child. And so everything that happens around the world around us, we take that in. So, so that's kind of, we talked about anxiety, hormone, thyroid, allergies was you, right? So allergies is actually very tied in with everything else. Your liver being unbalanced will make allergies way, way worse. So if you work on detoxing the liver, that's one of the biggest supports for helping with allergies, because your body is overreactive to things because it's not handling the toxins correctly. So it creates like, this is a terrible toxin, and you create an allergy to it, versus just nourishing your liver and taking other inflammatory things out of your body. So oftentimes, people will think, oh, I'm allergic to, for example, this food or this other thing. When they just try and do an elimination diet, it's very difficult, because unless somebody has a symptom that flares up immediately after they eat a food, how do you know what it was? And also, it might be several different things. Like, for example, I had a gal who came in who she knew she had a gluten allergy. She also, we found out by doing testing, she was 24, and she came in and she said, there's something wrong with me. I'm a dancer. I can't remember the routines. I'm stumbling. Something is wrong. So we did testing to check and see if she had an allergy to foods, and she did. She had allergies to not just gluten, but also corn, off the charts. Well, when you try to go on a gluten-free diet, what do you eat? We're out of corn. So she had a gluten allergy to corn, rice. So when she tried to eliminate gluten, she didn't feel any better. Well, no, because she's still eating the other things. So a lot of times, just actually doing the testing when you're checking for food allergies is important. And then we went a step further and we said, what antibodies does your body have? In other words, what autoimmune condition could you potentially have if you continue eating those foods because you have an antibody, like the thyroid antibody? In her case, she had an antibody to myelin sheath. Exactly. So if she were going to continue eating those foods, she is a candidate to have MS as an adult, as an older adult.
Yeah, it's the deterioration of the
So our
myelin
mom
sheath.
Yeah. Pardon?
Our mom had it.
Okay, so that's so oftentimes they don't check for it until somebody has the symptoms with conventional medicine, until they have symptoms and they say, oh, this is now what you have, versus being proactive and saying, what foods do you have an antibody to that you can't eat those foods? And then what body part is being attacked? If you know those things, she can avoid the foods that she has an allergy to and never trigger the MS, because she's going to avoid those foods. So she's not going to continue to damage that. But unless somebody knows and is proactive when they first start seeing a problem, they get way too far down the road before we start addressing it, and then it's too late.
So and I was gonna see what hers was, but is yours food or environmental or?
Partly environmental, partly animals.
Mm-hmm.
So is that different for hers
Well,
than with
in
food?
other words, it's still the same type of thing, in that the body has gotten mixed signals saying that this is a problem when it really shouldn't be a problem. So there's oftentimes doing a liver cleanse will help, and then avoiding other things that are probably going on in the background that are causing inflammation in your body that you don't really recognize.
Does that also do with the eczema?
Yeah, oh, absolutely. Because think about it, your first major detox organ is your liver, right? If your liver is overwhelmed, what's your next biggest detox organ? Your skin, exactly. So if your liver isn't handling it, it's going to start coming out your skin. Yeah, that was not a happy face. But that's the other thing is because I also was going to talk a little bit about weight, is all of these things we just talked about. That's why Americans have a weight problem. It's not because we suddenly started eating too much and not exercising. It's because when the liver isn't working and when you've got toxins in and your adrenals aren't functioning, well, then the lines get too much crud in there and your body doesn't work very efficiently. So when somebody wants to lose weight and they're going to just say, I'm going to eat less and exercise more, it's not going to work.
It doesn't.
It's guaranteed to not work because you're not really solving the problem. The real problem is let's detox. Let's avoid foods that are or other things that are causing inflammation. And once you start, I see it all the time. Once we start resolving the underlying problems, people's weight just starts going away because the body's working. So the thing I say is the weight is not the problem. The weight is just a symptom of the problem. So if that's your symptom, it's not the problem. Don't just go after your symptom. Resolve the underlying problem. It could also be glucose metabolism, which I see all the time. But if you just go after the weight, you're not going to sustain it. And one of the major studies that I point this out to people so they understand, they took a group of healthy men that were all at a weight that was a perfect weight for them, and they put them all on a calorie restriction diet. Well, as you would expect, they all lost weight, right? But when they all went back to eating this diet that they had eaten prior to the study, every single one of them gained weight because their body said, oh, there's some reason that we need to conserve calories because we weren't getting enough. So the metabolism slowed to compensate. So when they went back to their normal dietary, needs, they all gained weight. Well, that's the same thing that happens with us when we diet. That's the whole premise behind yo-yo dieting. It's not just that people can't, that they start eating a lot. They just start going back to what they normally could eat, which is why I'm really not in favor of people doing gastric bypass. Sure, you take somebody's calories and you cut it way down, but oftentimes they lose muscle instead of fat, and then of course they're going to get it back. So I do use, when I'm working with people that are trying to lose weight, I use one thing called Cravix LPTN, which is a leptin manager, which helps reduce cravings, but it also helps burn fat. And then I use another one called Rebound Resist, which tells the body we're going to reprogram that yo-yo-ness. Yes.
Dr. Tobin, so what you're describing right now with, when somebody goes on a diet and severely cuts, or gastric bypass, for example, does like Wegovy and that weight loss drug, is it in the same? Would you say it's
so
like the
glad
same
you asked
type
that.
of thing as a gastric bypass, where it's
Wegovy is designed for people who are type 2 diabetic. When we use it for somebody who's not diabetic, it also has a part of it component that inhibits the peristaltic action of our stomach and our stomach. It's called gastroparesis, so the stomach doesn't digest. So you feel fuller. The problem with that is the most miserable patients I've ever had have been people that their gastroparesis doesn't reverse. It's really bad.
So every time they eat, they get sick?
Absolutely, yeah. They cannot digest anything, and so they cough and they vomit, and they are the most miserable patients I've had, and it takes a lot of work to restart that. That's one of the main reasons people go off those medications, is because of the digestive problems it causes.
Is that like the people that are all doing that Ozempic and stuff?
Yes,
right now?
that's it.
So
Yeah.
they're all gonna like have.
Well, it's not a safe, healthy way to lose weight.
everyone's on?
Because it's a quick, easy fix, and they don't see the end problem to it. That's where our
Instant gratification.
yes, and I honestly, if you have it where I absolutely have to fit into this wedding dress, fine.
So you can go on and off it at any
Mhm.
time?
Well, it's
You're
not
supposed
a
to.
safe thing at all. It has a lot of real negative. It's very problematic. I'm not in favor of it for weight loss at all. It's not my favorite for people who are type 2 diabetic, because the whole issue with type 2 diabetic, I get frustrated when people say it's like hereditary. Like I'm type 2 diabetic. My grandma was type 2 diabetic. My mom was type 2 diabetic. So it must be hereditary. I really want to slap those people because it's not. The whole thing with type 2 diabetes versus type 1. Type 1 is an autoimmune genetic thing. That's juvenile diabetes where the pancreas doesn't produce enough insulin. Type 2 diabetic is where the vast majority of the people that are experiencing it are. And what's happening there is it's also called insulin resistant diabetes because what's happening is insulin acts like the shuttle, bringing your glucose from the bloodstream into the cells. And so when you have too much glucose, you add too much sugar, then this shuttle starts acting really fast. And the cells are like, wait, we didn't ask for that much sugar. Calm it down. We're going to close down and become resistant to letting all that insulin in because we don't want all that sugar. So then the body goes, oh, can't get it into the cells. This extra sugar damages fine blood vessels. That's why diabetics have eye problems and kidney problems and feet problems and such, because it damages fine blood vessels. So the body says, we can't just let that glucose circulate. We're going to take that extra glucose and we're going to convert it to fat and store it. So every time the blood sugar gets high, convert to fat, store, convert to fat, store. So you can see why diabetics have a lot of fat, right? Because they're just converting all that. So what the medications do is they act like a hammer, forcing that glucose into the cells. Well, what do you suppose the cells do? Yeah, they go, okay, we're going to clamp down harder, and they resist more, which is why anybody who's ever been on like metformin or one of the blood sugar medications or any of those type of things, you start with one dose of 500 milligrams once a day. And then, that brings it down because you put a hammer in there, it's forcing it in there. And then they close down. Oh, now you need 2 doses a day. It just becomes, if you are type 2 diabetic and you're 90, I'm not so worried. But what happens if you're type 2 diabetic and you're 40 or 50? You got a lot of life left, and you just created a self-perpetuating problem. So the thing I like to do when I'm working with somebody who's type 2 diabetic, and oftentimes the doctors say, once you're on the medications, you're going to be on the medications for the rest of your life. And from their standpoint, it's true, because if you just keep doing that same thing, you're just going to take higher and higher doses, and you're going to get 2 medications, and eventually your pancreas isn't going to be able to keep up, so you're going to be on insulin. So yeah, they are right from their perspective, but you can tell the body to start unwinding that and allowing the cells to gradually say, okay, we're not getting hammered, we're not getting drenched with glucose, and so they start relaxing and becoming less and less resistant, and then letting your glucose go in. Because you need that glucose to get into your bloodstream, not into your cells, not just to protect your other things from damage, but also because that's where you get your energy. If you can't get any of that glucose into the cells, that's why you're fatigued and you're tired and you don't feel like exercising. And your whole body doesn't function, it doesn't have the energy to detox. And so inflammation comes up, and yes, of course you'll put on weight. So it's just a self-perpetuating thing, but you can unwind that. And so it's just a matter of doing some detoxing, doing some things to kind of help. I've got another formula specifically called glucose control that helps to tell the cells it's okay to relax. But in addition to doing that, you have to be eating in a certain way. And one of the things I really work when I'm working with type 2 diabetics are to do the intermittent fasting, because think about it. If you have your last meal at 6 o'clock at night and your glucose starts coming down while you're sleeping, and it's coming down all night, and then in the morning, if the first thing you do is have some food, it says, oh, we're just going to continue burning glucose because we have plenty of glucose, so it just burns glucose. The only way it's ever going to burn fat is once it depletes the glucose supply enough. Then it goes, oh, we're under glucose. Oh, we got to go that extra step and start accessing those fat stores. It will not access fat stores unless you've depleted the glucose. So that's why the intermittent fasting works really good for any type of weight loss where you're trying to burn fat and keep your muscle mass. And especially where there's blood sugar issues involved.
How many times, or is intermittent fasting? It's not every single day though, right?
Well, so different people, and depending on the person.
You do it every day? Okay.
I mean,
Okay.
different people do different things. But when I'm working with somebody, I'll see what works in their lifestyle. But I'm just using the example of somebody that quits eating at, say, in the evening, and then doesn't have any snacks that night, and then in the morning.
Ooh.
Yeah, exactly. And then in the morning does not have something that has glucose in the morning, but lets that glucose continue to go down, especially if they're working out then, because if you're working out while you're letting your glucose stores go down, your body will start burning off that extra glucose. So if you continue to let it go down and you're working out, then you are likely to hit that point where you're going to start burning the fat. And so then if you wait until, say, noon, 1 o'clock, or whenever works in your lifestyle, before you have your next meal, you can still have a very safe, healthy amount of calories in that time frame, but you're just making sure that there's enough time for that glucose to settle down. And so I'll have people actually check their glucose levels so that we know what their fasting glucose is in the morning. And that way we actually know if this is what we're eating, this is what's happening, instead of just guessing.
So with all of this, does all of this in the end help sleep better at night as well? Is this all like?
Yeah, it's all
correlated
tied. It's all tied together. That's one of the things that when I'm working with somebody, each person comes in and they have their own set of problems. And it's everybody's unique. I never see somebody exactly the same as somebody else. But once you start fixing the root of problem A, then you'll often find problem B, C, and D just fall in line.
It's just been about the last year. I can fall asleep really quickly,
Mhm.
and then about an hour later, I'm like, okay, what's the plans for the day? Oh,
So and also in Eastern medicine, different times of the clock have to do with different organ systems too. So especially if I'm seeing somebody wake up somewhere about 3 o'clock in the morning or so, that's the liver time. So that's often the liver is really struggling, so it's telling them to wake up then. So it can be a lot of different things. It could be somebody's cortisol levels being off. So
and that's more hormonal again, and that's this menobelly they call it.
Exactly, but that's tied with stress and your adrenals, because your adrenals produce that cortisol. So although everything in the body works together, so it's just a matter of helping to fine tune the body and not just looking at one particular problem. And that's really what I love doing, because that's the whole holistic approach.
Yeah.
So
Makes a lot of sense.
So is the magic trick the liver detox? And then how long do you do a detox for?
I do a liver detox all the time. I mean, I
It's a daily thing?
Like it's daily?
Yeah, because I want to keep my liver working well, because I'm constantly exposed to toxins and stresses and things like that. So I know I need to, I don't do it as strenuous as I would have somebody, but yeah, I may do daily, I might do every other day, but I definitely still continue to stay on. I do the Estro Protect personally, a lot of times just to kind of help clear my receptor sites off.
Okay.
And then I may do a liver detox on the off day or something like that. So it just varies with the person and what they're exposed to, what, how healthy they are, what their energy level is, things like that.
So how do you go about finding, like, if I'm coming in for hormones, she's going in for allergies, she's going in for all of the above. Like, how do you do, like, saliva tests, the blood tests?
What I usually start out with is just doing, having somebody fill out a health history, and I ask a zillion questions because I'm looking at their whole body.
Right.
And then I sit down with them and I look and say, okay, this kind of looks like, and what's going on with you? And it may be something, I ask so many questions because, like, for example, I had one gentleman who came in who had really very bizarre neurological type symptoms, but he'd been to multiple neurologists and they all said, there's nothing wrong with you, you're fine. And in his case, when I did some testing on him, he had really high mercury levels, like really high mercury levels. And I said, how could you possibly have such high mercury levels? Well, he owned a hazardous recycling center.
Oh my gosh.
So that explained, but you know, you just kind of have to, each person's different. I would never have guessed that, but when we do the testing, that's what came up. So I'll usually just do a consultation with somebody and see what I think they need. One person might need saliva testing. One person might just need some of the in-office testing. Everybody's different. And
So like if she's coming to you for allergies, do you work at her like as an allergist, like you do all the like the skin allergy tests or food or?
I probably wouldn't do skin allergy testing. I would say, okay, what else? I'm just using you for an example. What else is going on with her?
Oh, okay, so
She may have other things other than just allergies.
so that's where the root problem comes
Exactly
in.
right.
Each symptom gives you a clue.
Yes, that's
Okay.
exactly
Right.
it. But it's just a symptom. So, and that's why I try to let people know that I do ask a zillion questions, because our current medical paradigm is, this is my problem,
Right.
address
fix
that one problem.
Yeah,
Don't look at
okay.
anything else about it. Because the
Okay.
doctors don't want to know. When you go in
True.
to talk to Dr. A and you start talking about this other stuff, he's going, I'll give you a referral to them. Shut up about that.
Yes.
I'm only talking about this.
Yes.
And that's our problem with now that we've got everything so specialized. You're not just your ear, nose, and throat and your digestive separate. It's connected. So if somebody isn't looking at your body as a whole, they're not addressing the root of the problem. So that's, I don't know if that answered your question.
It does, yeah. And I guess my next question would be like, do you take insurance? Is it uninsured? Is it, what is your?
The problem with insurance from what I do is I use it like a car example. If you get into an accident and you go in to have your car repaired, they will fix your dent and what have you, but they're not going to fix the reason you had the accident is you have bald tires and no brakes. So if you go in for conventional medicine, insurance will cover your emergency because that's what you're going in there for. But they're not going to look to see why you're in there with that, because that's not their job.
Right.
And there's no diagnosis code for that, so insurance isn't going to cover it.
True.
So that's really why we can try and bill them. Like, for example, I might do some blood work that they might pay for. But as a whole, what we do isn't what they're geared to pay for.
Got it.
And also, like, because this is awesome. This sounds like
Everything.
Answer.
Yeah, because this last few years has been just really hard on me just to get up out of bed every day. And this sounds like a really cool, like, solution. Is it hard to book with you to get in, or you, like, if I called you tomorrow?
Especially if Claudia refers.
I know peeps.
Claudia, so you know.
No, we Gloria, my office person, really, that's her priority. If somebody has a problem, or they wouldn't be calling us if we didn't have a problem.
Right.
She'll get somebody in right away.
I'm in.
I'm in.
So what I'm going
Good luck to you with us.
Yeah, I can see. I
She's
got
already
work cut out
blocking
for
the
it.
I
number.
know. She's like, if you hear from Beebs,
So what I'm gonna do, if anybody wants to taste any of the things that, just to kind of see what I have the chocolate here, I have the vanilla here. I have something called cognate magnesium. You may be familiar with magnesium. There's a specific type of magnesium
Yeah.
that crosses the blood-brain barrier called magnesium 3 and 8.
yes.
So it's very calming. So if you have anxiety, you might want to check this
Oh,
out.
can I have the bulk size, please?
There's also something called mood soothe.
Oh.
And this is also very much to help calm. It has some magnesium, but also has some GABA, which you might be familiar with what that is. That's your calming neurotransmitter. So I use this a lot of times with people, some combination of this, and I can test them on you if you want, but you can taste them if you like. So these are
Test them what? Like it'll work right away?
Oh, I don't want to keep you guys too late. Do I have time to do that on you? Are you okay with that?
To
Just like 2 minutes to test something on you?
Yeah, but wait,
Okay,
I mean,
Then
if,
stand right here and I'll explain it.
Let me get my magic wand.
Yeah, let me
Yes.
get my
magic breath.
magic.
Yeah, that just fixed everything.
Just curious.
I know.
Okay, so just come here.
Okay.
I'm gonna have you hold your arm out like this.
Which one?
Do this.
So
Okay, I'm gonna put a little pressure on it, have you resist. Okay, feel that?
Mhm.
Okay, now resist again.
Oh
Can
my
you tell
god!
the
What the?
difference?
Yeah, I wasn't paying attention
Okay, let me.
or something.
What's your first name?
Laura,
Laura. Okay, so go ahead and say, my name is Laura.
my name is Laura.
Okay, resist. Good. Now go ahead and say, my name is Harold.
My name is
Now
Harold.
resist really strong.
Why is that?
That's because your body knows you're not Harold. So when you say, my name is Harold, your subconscious goes, no, something's not quite right here. And it distracts your system just enough. It doesn't send the nerve impulses up, but it's consistent. So the same type of thing happens if I touch part of your body where something's not quite right. Your system does the same
yeah,
thing.
it wasn't
goes,
even.
yeah, it goes, what's going on over there? And it distracts it just enough you lose that law.
I know, and I was trying. Like I knew what you were gonna do.
So is
That
it
is
okay
so
if I touch in different points?
Sure.
Okay, you're a little bit hesitant.
No, I'm just blown away.
Resist. Okay. Resist.
Ah!
So usually if I touch up here and it goes down, you've got some stress.
Can you get rid of headaches immediately?
Well, let me, and you carry
Stop
your
it.
stress in your neck and shoulders. Your lungs are nice and strong, heart strong, thyroid's off,
Oh gosh.
adrenals
What the-
off, liver,
Yeah. Well,
gallbladder.
apparently, I
Are you, are you dribbling a basketball?
I'm literally.
You're trying. Okay. So now what I'm going to do is I'm
volunteer.
going to introduce something into your system. And this is kind of like an open circuit, closed circuit type thing. So if I introduce something into your system and your body likes it, it closes the circuit and your arm stays really nice and strong. If it doesn't like it, it leaves the circuit open and your arm goes down.
Okay.
And the reason I can have you hold something is because matter is just negative and positively charged atoms. So energetically, your body's energy will go through the container and interact with what's inside, kind of like sound travels through a wall.
Oh.
So I'm gonna, let me ask your body what its weakest link is.
Apparently, from here down is the weakest link.
So put your middle finger, okay, perfect. So what that'll do is that will tighten up everything except for your weakest link. See how that just really tightened it up? Okay, so
What?
stress is your weakest link. So then what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna have you hold something
That does not shock me.
and see, resist. See the difference? Isn't that crazy? Now let's take it off, just double check.
Oh man.
Okay, so the magnesium your body likes,
I do, but I take magnesium.
but
Or-
what kind is it?
I don't know.
Nature's bounty.
Kirkland brand. Wait, I wasn't ready. Kirkland brand.
Okay. You didn't really.
I didn't
you
even
don't
need
like
to
it.
know.
So she brings up a good point. She takes Kirkland brand.
Well, actually, it's not. It's Nature's Bounty, but
Okay.
it's like 500 milligrams.
I'm gonna let you sit down.
Because I failed.
But I am gonna let you take that. And the reason I'm glad you said that is because I always forget to mention it.
Not all supplements are created.
Yeah, that's exactly it.
That's
When
the
you're
same one I
buying
take,
something
so-
over the counter versus a clinical grade supplement, you're getting a weaker version, even if it's the same milligrams. How many milligrams of something doesn't say how much effective ingredient it has in it.
No.
So it just says how much weight is in it. How it's processed and how pure it is will have a way bigger effect of how it works on your body. So I have people bring in all the supplements they have at home, and I will go through them. Sometimes what they have works great. Other times it isn't working at all. And that's why I kind of help find out what specifically works for you. Like I would have no way of knowing this works better than this for you unless I specifically tested you.
Okay.
So that's why, and so I will let you.
That's why I don't take supplements.
But I have. So I have
Probably
been
were
You can
taking.
put a little bit of a scoop in there and mix it up.
Oh, okay. So I have been taking. I started taking magnesium on a wait. What am I putting in?
Just half a scoop
Half
in
a
there.
scoop. Smells good. It smells like Kool-Aid.
Yeah, it
Smells
tastes
like
good.
grape Kool-Aid.
So
Are we drinking Kool-Aid
you
tonight?
are drinking this.
You drink it, I'll watch
Drinking the
you.
Kool-Aid.
Yeah.
So what is this gonna do?
So it's not going to be like she's suddenly going to go, oh,
dang
I'm
it.
all better. But she can taste it, see if she likes the flavor of it. But that's how I kind of work with somebody is say, okay, this is what works for you. Somebody else might need that instead of this. I don't know unless
So
I ask you.
it might work for me just because I like the taste
No,
of
because
it.
that one
No,
didn't
no.
work.
Or that
Because
one.
when I muscle
She tested
tested
you.
that one on you, your arm went down. It didn't really like it, whereas it did like this one. They're both good.
That's the other thing. Memory, like
They're
Well, I
like,
am right in menopause. Like I have brain fog. I feel as dumb as a stick. I can't remember when I go from 5 feet over there to 5 feet over here. What was I doing? So yeah, I'm in all that. I have all that stuff.
So hormone balance is big for you.
Yes. Am I drinking the whole thing?
I would, yeah.
you want to pass it around so everyone can taste it.
No, you guys are welcome
I'm just
to
kidding.
come up here, and that's why I have water. I've got stir sticks. You're welcome to try whatever you'd like to try.
That is very easy.
And that's this for her stress.
Well, it's going to help because this was her key thing was stress.
Yeah.
So this is just something that helps calm stress.
Can I try it?
Yeah, you can
That
try
was
it.
really
too.
good.
I love it. So
Try it.
So, just for this month, for example, in October, I had 9 to 10, even more plus migraines, and I have rescue meds and stuff like that. And today and last night I had one. Is it just because my body doesn't know what it's doing? I mean,
yeah, the hormone imbalance will cause stress. Liver dysfunction will cause, you have so many things that would give you headaches. So it's a matter of approaching it, getting the biggest things first, and then filtering on up. I'm guessing for you, a liver cleanse is going to be really critical. I'm just guessing, but
no, I'm going to make an appointment tomorrow.
okay, good. I'm
Because I've been
excited.
talking to Claudia about it too, because it's like,
That's good.
I had a doctor, Doreen Ryu, who was a DO over at St. Jude's, and she was amazing. I mean, she would Google, she would whatever she could.
Yeah.
And then, like you explained how things got so specialized, she retired way too young because she goes,
She couldn't focus on one piece.
yeah, it's like I have
You have to
15
refer
minutes.
them out, yeah.
Yeah, and I can't do this in 15 minutes, and I don't want to do my patients injustice, so I'm retiring. And I was broken, and so for the last 5 years that she's retired, I've seen my health just. I mean, I never go to the doctor or anything. I just get a refill of my prescriptions and stuff.
So like,
that.
can you not reverse, but like with Hashimoto's, can you get off of this?
So here's the issue with Hashimoto's. It's an autoimmune issue. How much damage has happened to her? I don't know. Can you get to the point where you don't have symptoms? Yeah, if you don't have a lot of damage. But the reason we say you can never cure an autoimmune issue is because the fact that tissue is tagged, you can never untag it. You can get these guys under control so they're not attacking. And if you can repair the tissue damage, you can get to the point where you don't have a problem. But you also have to know what's causing it to flare these guys up and avoid whatever that is. So unless you find that out, you can't resolve it. So how you can never cure it because you can't untag it, but you can get it to the point where there's no symptoms and you can have a lot of tissue repair. The body's pretty miraculous on what it can do. It just depends.
I just want to have energy again.
Any other questions? Well, thank you guys so much.
Thank you.
I have had a blast with you. Thank you
Thank
very,
you.
very much.
very much.
So any